just going to say a massive thank you to everyone signing in already. I know I started a little bit early. You're all absolutely amazing to already be here chatting away. Thank you for joining and continue watching. It's going to be an amazing interview with Paul Moore, our ant shop. Yeah, we'll see you there at 9 o'clock. And I will start the music in a minute. Random question. Apart from the ants, what is everyone's favorite thing in the tank? Like favorite insect or whatever? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for signing in. Welcome to the Picnic Table Ant Chat. We start in half an hour after a bit of feeding in the multi-species tank. See you there. So here's a question for you. What is your favourite insect apart from the ants that live in the tank? Let me know in the comments. Hey there, guys and girls. Only 15 minutes left of this feeding before the interview starts. See you there. Hello there, and welcome everyone to the Picnic Table Ant Chat. With me, I am your host Tom, and today we have some awesome guests with us. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Lexi.
I'm Jair from Amor Art and Shop. How you doing?
Brilliant. We're really good. Thank you for joining us and coming on the show tonight. It's going to be absolutely awesome. So I've got a load of questions lined up for you, so we're just going to jump in if that's all right.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So first question always is, how did you get into ant keeping? When did you start? What was your kind of journey through it?
Yeah, so it was actually because of our kids. Well, one of them. We had when COVID started, we had our middle child secretly feeding ants in our home. So she found some ants coming in through the front door, and she was sneaking little crumbs of her meal over to the front door and feeding these ants. When I discovered them, I was like, "Hey, we need to get rid of them." And she's like, "No, they're my pets." And then we're like, "Oh, okay." So then we looked into how to keep ants and see if we could maybe put them in some kind of ant nest or whatever, which led us to watching some Ants Canada videos like everybody else.
Of course.
And then we started looking for formicariums. We found them quite expensive. And since my husband here is super creative, he decided to make his own. And then we started joining ant pages on Facebook. He started sharing his nests that he was making, and then people were like, "Hey, I want to buy one," and that kind of led into our ant shop.
Brilliant. So it's been quite a fast journey, really, quite fast with. If you only started at the start of COVID, a couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. It moved real quick. It exploded. We weren't really expecting it to be so successful so quickly. But we're really grateful for it. We're very thankful for all the support that we've had from fellow ant keepers and other ant shops and content creators. So thank you.
So how did you go about first making your formicariums? What sort of things did you do?
So yeah, in pair with my daughter getting us started with the ant shop. I mean, not with the ant shop, but just creating the formicariums. I already had a lot of tools at hand. We have done crafts and arts and sort of electronic engineering projects and modeling and sculpting and working with 3D printers. That's something that's been around with us for now around 5 or 6 years. So all of the tools and the how to do it was available. It was more complicated, the experimenting part, and trying to figure out how to make something that was practical and compact and that looked nice. So the first creations I ever made were a complete I wouldn't say I failed, but they were completely far from what we're doing today. And it has taken a lot of experimentation. So I think, long story short, how do I make the designs? It's just a lot of testing and experimenting and then drafting. And then that idea maybe goes nowhere and then just starting all over again.
Okay.
But more importantly, I think with the everyday experience and the comments from all of the customers, a lot of it is solving problems. And I think that's more of an engineering approach, solving problems, questions. I wish my formicarium did that or had these qualities, or I wish my Outworld would do this or do that, or this connector or X and Y functionality that we need when doing our hobby. That feedback then sparks creativity into, how would I do that? And then I just start drafting the ideas on the computer, pretty much.
No, that's really interesting, actually. So you do it on a computer. I'm not really techie. I wouldn't have a clue how to do that. So hats off to you just for that.
It's been a challenge. It's not the easiest, and more importantly, there are crazy ideas. I guess too many crazy ideas. And some really great things that I wish I could do. But then when you send it to the printer, turns out that it's not as easy to make, or there are some ideas that are really cool, but they're not as realistic to produce quickly enough to meet the demand. So that's part of the functionality and finding something that is replicable. And that's a whole another story, but I like having these crazy ideas and then putting them to the challenge and to the test and see what's actually doable and achievable and functional, and then just go with that.
Yeah, just go nuts.
Yeah.
So you've got a new range of products coming out, haven't you?
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
We actually have a couple of photos that we're working on. This period in time for us here in Canada, most of the ant species are in diapause. So quote unquote, they're sleeping, they're not active. And our orders, our volume here at the ant shop is not necessarily the heaviest as in the middle of the summer. So this gives me time to start testing and developing some ideas that maybe have been on the back burner for a while. Yeah. And now that we finished the holiday season and all the family visits and whatnot, we've been having time to put together some new products that are going to be released. In short, there are 4, but I can show you a couple of updates out of 2 of them.
Yeah, please do.
So I'm going to switch over my screen. I think you're going to be able to see me. There you go. So this product over here, it's a little bit of a window. Oh, okay. I think just when I chose that application, it crashed on me.
That's all right.
Sorry, I'm going to try it again.
Yeah, go for it.
But I think you were able to see it for 1 second there, right?
Yeah, we could see it. Oh, there we go.
There we go. So this product over here, I released a couple of photos in the Discord a while ago, but I really like what we have here because it's a formicarium that is standing up.
Yes. There's not many upright ones on the market from what I can find.
Correct. There's not a lot of upright ones. And it's not that we need an upright formicarium, but what it's actually doing is bringing the humidity down from the bottom and making that humidity travel the entire column all the way to the top part. And humid air tends to be lightweight, not necessarily lightweight, but tends to go to the top portion of a chamber. So this formicarium is taking advantage of that, making the humidity travel from the bottom to the top and creating a bit of a gradient by using the air. So humidity in this formicarium is transported through the air, not necessarily through the substrate directly, which is what most of our initial designs in formicariums do.
Yeah.
The water is coming from the back, as you can see on this photo. The water is coming from the back from this little tiny jar. It comes down the back and it passes through this little tiny tunnel here, a little hose, and then evaporates into the air. And if you can see this triangle over here, that's basically for you to be able to pass a heating cable if you want to, which will accelerate the rate of evaporation and humidification of the system. And whenever you need to refill the water on the chamber, all you got to do is remove the backside of the hydration, the evaporation unit. You just remove it. The ants will not escape the setup, as you can see, because there is a mesh. Right, so we have that mesh over there, so you can disconnect the evaporator from behind, refill it, and then bring it back and put it in place.
That's really cool.
So I don't think we see that very often, but what I was going on this design was, can it be compact? Can I make the water chamber be outside of the actual formicarium so that it can be serviceable, refillable? I can wash it, I can refresh it, I can, ferve it up and bring it back and have a brand new, fresh water supply of humidity for the formicarium.
That's really cool. I really like that design. That looks really smart as well, doesn't it? It's nice. It's compact.
I'm gonna say that from all of my designs, but but I am hoping that everybody who sees it has some good use for it. I mean, this is not the biggest formicarium, but it's definitely good for some small colonies that are just getting started. Or there are some species that don't really require a lot of space, like acorn ants. There's quite a handful of species that remain relatively small through their entire development. And this formicarium, this type of setup is geared more towards that type of species, what I like to call pocket colony or a colony in your pocket, right? So
Yeah, I like that term, pocket colony. That's really good.
there are some families out there, some kids, some ant keepers, right? Some hobbyists that are not necessarily always looking for an ever growing, ever expanding,
Yeah.
huge, humongous colony. Although most of us have fun with that, but
Yeah.
there is also some beauty to the small, contained, everlasting pocket colony. So that's what we're trying to do with this product.
Yeah, no, I think that works really well. Like you say, like for young kids and whatnot, that's perfect for them having just a small colony. That's that's perfect. I really like that. And I would be quite happy with that on my shelf, to be honest. I like the design of it. I think it looks really smart.
Yeah, so the ants would come from the bottom here. We have two holes on each side of the hydration. It's not a hydration port, but at least through there, the ants don't escape into the hydration unit.
Yeah.
And they just climb up these 4 chambers, a little tiny pore in the middle of the slide, and then they decide where they stay. That's it, pretty much.
That looks really cool. What's it made out of?
Well, this is still from the concept that we have in our nets, which is the hybrid style formicarium, and it's just called hybrid because it's taking advantage or 2 or 3 different techniques of building nests instead of just sticking to plastic or just sticking to glass or just sticking to like plaster and grout and all of these mineral additives. Instead of sticking to just one type of material, all we're doing is mixing out some of them to take the best of each. There's cool things about the plastic formicariums, but then there's the drawbacks of those formicariums. And same thing with plaster, same thing with just sticking to glass or acrylic. So the hybrid style tries to take the most out of everything. For example, the simplest of things, humidity. When humidity inside of a formicarium becomes overwhelming, oversaturated, if it's a glass formicarium or a plastic formicarium exclusively, it's very easy for that water to condensate and then drip down the walls and create.
Yeah.
Not always. I'm being dramatic, but but you could create excessive condensation.
Yeah.
And then that condensation, again, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, can have some drawbacks, some dead ants here and there, and broad and whatnot. So if you have a substrate that it's mineral based, for example, like plaster, then it can absorb some of that humidity when you start having that excess. So that's a very simple example of why having both materials in one, it's very good. One of the drawbacks of the formicariums that are made out of just mineral additives is that they can evaporate water very quickly, not just to the inside where we want that water to be, but to the outside, the exterior. They evaporate water out, so we need to keep refilling the water chambers quite often. So plastic and glass are very good at retaining that humidity and not letting it escape. So again, this is where having those 2 materials under one, I guess, frame or encasing is helping them collaborate and take the best out of each.
That's pretty ingenious, to be honest. That's really cool.
So these formicariums don't really need a lot of water. Very, very little water.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. So you shouldn't need to refill them often at all, and you've got an easy refill system even when you do.
Yeah.
What sort of range do you have? Can you send these worldwide, or are you strictly in Canada and America, or?
So we can ship worldwide, and we've recently made an update on our website. So if you log into our website, there should be an estimate of the cost in your currency. So if you were to log in, it'll show you the Canadian price, and underneath it should also show you what it would cost in euros.
That's really handy because I'm really bad at doing the exchange. The other thing I was going to say is the ants. You actually sell ants as well, don't you?
To Canadians, because we're in Canada.
Yeah.
And we can't ship anywhere else.
Yeah, that's basically what I was going to ask. Yeah. Are the rules like the same as the US, but you're allowed to ship them within Canada?
Right. So it's similar, but we can ship through all of Canada. but we can't ship to the US. And I think in the States, they kind of have to stay within their state, unless they have permits and that kind of stuff. And technically speaking, we could also receive exotic species, but we would also have to get those permits. But our focus really isn't on the ants, because you can get your ants from your backyard, or there's other businesses or shops that sell way more variety than we can possibly do. What we kind of specialize in is the equipment, and we're trying to make them affordable, because when we started ant keeping, we're like, this is expensive.
Yes, it is. Yes, it really is.
So we want to keep that in mind, and we want to make sure that our prices remain affordable for beginners and advanced and anyone that wants equipment.
Yeah, right. I think that's really important, to be honest, trying to bring those prices down. Like you say, it is really expensive, and that's just makes it hard for people to get into the hobby. If you can make it cheaper, then it just makes it easier, doesn't it? And brings more people in at a younger age as well. If you can afford it with your pocket money at a young age, your mum can't stop you.
Yeah, well, I have 3 kids. We can't stop. It makes it a little bit harder. Yeah.
That is actually very interesting, the participation from the little ones. And going back again to the topic of the ants and the ant shop, we do sell ants. We don't want to sell very complicated species. And I think the reason is also because we're worried about making sure the ants have what they need to be taken care of. And at this point in time, with COVID going in and out, not trying to bring the COVID card, but with COVID going in and out, we can only have so many people here in the ant shop. So we have resources enough to continue working and developing merchandise. Having the whole department just for taking care of 200 species of this, 60 species of that, 30 species of that, 100 and something species of that, it's quite a lot of work. And it has to be very, very recognized to those stores that sell lots of ants with high quality. It takes a lot of work to do that. So we have a lot of kids around our neighborhood and people in the community that got interested in ant keeping. They don't necessarily have all the equipment or want to aim for the most sophisticated setup or equipment with their ants. They just have fun catching ants. A lot of kids just have fun catching ants, and when there's nuptial flights, they know that we're going to take those ants in. They don't bring necessarily that many. It's not overwhelming. But they give us enough to keep some beginner species available for people who want to bundle up their purchase. They give us enough for us to be busy and have enough species to test. I love the Tremorium species. I know a lot of people don't like them. But me as a person, from a design point of view, like I want you to think from a designer point of view, not just an ant keeper. The Tremorium are really good to me because they grow very fast. So I can see faster than not how a setup is going to react and develop, instead of waiting 3 years with a slow growing species, right? I can see it in a couple of months. So kids around the area, around the neighborhood collaborate, and they bring us a lot of species, what they find in their backyard in the summer. And then that's the stock that you normally see us having available. Yeah.
That's really interesting, actually. That leads me on to another question. Do you go around schools or anything like that in your local area to show off your ants?
It's one of those COVID.
Yeah, so right now,
messed that up.
Yeah, right now with COVID, I can't even go into my kid's school as a parent. So never mind as anything else, right? So I think that it is our goal. Our goal is to educate and get more people interested in the hobby. I'm pretty sure as every other ant shop out there, because the more people that are into ant keeping, the more people will come to our site, right? So that is our goal. But most importantly, we don't want misinformation out there and introducing these kids into ant keeping, and they're like buying, gel nests and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that is also really important for us to do. For example, I catch some ants as well during the summer. And at first, the first year that we started doing it, I was walking up and down my street, looking down at the floor with this little bucket full of my equipment and that kind of stuff. And then all my neighbors were like, "Did you lose something?" And I'm like, "No, I'm looking for ants." Ants?
Crazy lady.
Yeah, ants. And you're like, "The insect?" Yeah, those. Oh, I have a lot in the backyard. So that opens up, what do you mean? Are you looking for any kind of ants? And then I go into explaining the queen ants and, how do you know the difference? And then the whole, ants are born with wings. And they're like, "Oh, really?" And so that kind of opens up the door for getting the information out. If they have kids, they're often like, "Hey, I think my kids would love this." And then that's where I'm like, "Hey, if you ever find a queen, let me know. I'll buy it off of you." And then we have an ice cream shop just around the corner. So we call it George's Ice Cream Money, because the kids will just go to George's to spend it on ice cream. So it's starting to become a community thing here in my neighborhood.
That's really cool. That is really cool. Can we ask what sort of area do you live in? Because Canada's so sparse and wide, and there's so many different environments. What's your sort of environment like?
So we live on a lake. It's a private lake. Like, you have to live here to access it. And there's like a lot of greenery around, like a lot of forests, trails, and that kind of stuff.
Nice.
We're in Stouffville, Ontario. If anyone is
not too far.
We're not in the town. We're a little bit more north. So basically the only thing you can walk to is the lake, this ice cream shop that's only open half the year, and a restaurant that is only open 3 months of the year.
Wow.
Because they're only patio. So everything else you need a vehicle to travel to.
Wow. So does it like snow for long periods of the year?
Well, this area is actually called the Snow Belt in Ontario. So yes, there is a forest, but that forest has a temperate climate. So we have a joke that says you have 3 months of summer, spring, and then cold.
Yeah.
That's it. So in reality, we see ants for only 4, 5, 6 months max.
2 weeks.
Yeah, it's a bit like that in the UK at the moment.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily the warmest part of Canada, but it's also not your worst in Canada. So
right.
We're lucky like that.
We're only 45-minute drive from Toronto.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah. We just kind of get to where we are is basically where there's a little bit more snow than in Toronto. So there's sometimes where we have snow on the ground, and you drive 45 minutes down to Toronto and it looks like nothing happened down there. So we catch a little bit more snow than they do.
Okay. But the ants seem to deal with that okay. You have quite a lot of ant species locally. What sort of ants can you catch locally?
So we often find some campanadas in Paris, the Paranolepis in Paris.
I would say that's one of the first to fly around this area, Paranolepis in Paris. It's called a winter ant, I guess, for a reason. So you start to see them foraging and having nuptial flights right when the snow is passing into spring, right? So that transition time. And then thereafter, you start having your out flights, different kind of species, but you have a bunch of campanadas that start coming out. Herculanus, Novoricensis, Tetramoriums, Lacheus, Formica.
We get a lot of Formicas here.
Okay,
the flights are insane.
Formica subcericea in particular is specifically where we reside. It's all over the place. I wouldn't say that I know it's the dominant species, but if it were, I wouldn't be surprised. You see them everywhere. They're everywhere. They fly. The flights are pretty obvious. They're all over the place. You can visually see the cloud of formicas. I don't know if that's just this specific area or how far it is, but where we reside is where we have seen the most.
Okay.
Very skittish though.
Yeah.
Very,
Yeah.
very skittish.
They were actually our first colony.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What colonies do you have yourself?
So we had a few, but like we said, we're so busy because we don't just do the ant shop. We have other small things going on. As you can see, we have a music studio, so we teach music lessons.
And kids.
And we have kids. We have 3 kids.
Yeah.
I have some birds as well. And I have to feed the family. So we have a lot of stuff going on. So we don't have a lot of time to take care of not only our ants, but our product or the ants that we sell. So we did have a quite like a pretty large tetramorium colony that we have given to our friend because we noticed that we were just like stressing ourselves out trying to make sure that we're being good ant keepers, but also focusing on building this business. So we gave that away to him. Our formica colony kind of it was our first, mistakes happen.
I'm not sure what happened, but if it was us, probably it was us.
Yeah. And then we still have some fairly small colonies that we use a lot for our nests. But we do have like
what's the blurry line between what's our personal colonies and what's also the store colonies?
Yeah.
So if we start counting what's the store colonies, well, right now we have in Diapause, I think around close to 500 species. Now the majority of those species are in the broad range of Tetramorium, Lacheus, mostly Neo-Niger. But there's other Lacheus as well in there, a little bit of Americanus as well.
500 colonies, not species. Let me correct that.
And then there's a huge batch of those, maybe 1/4, which is Campanatas and all of its varieties. So Pennsylvanicus, Nova Boreacensis. The majority is Nova Boreacensis what we have in stock. I think we find them a lot around this area.
Yeah.
And same thing, the biggest Nova Boreacensis have either sold. As soon as the numbers get bigger, we notice that customers right away grab them. Or some have been donated, similar to the Tetramorium, to the kids that collect ants for us and do trades. And actually donating them has been very helpful because we can keep an eye on them. We still know how the development of those species are, but we know that we have somebody full-time paying attention to those bigger colonies. And other colonies that are more personal, we have a Prenolepis in Paris colony.
And the Nova.
And we also have a Nova Boreacensis that's for our kids. Prenolepis in Paris has been a challenge for sure.
Okay, in what way?
So our first queen died during
developing.
During its first hibernation, she died, and then we tried to give her a new queen, and it worked. So
wow, well done.
Yes, so they were without a queen for a while, so I think that's why it worked. But we put a queen in, and she's been doing really well.
Wow.
So colony from first year manages to get around 15 to 16 workers at around 1 year of life.
Yeah.
But soon after, not right after coming out of Diapause, but a couple of weeks after coming out of Diapause, the queen died. We have no idea what happened.
Just randomly. It does happen, yeah.
Just happened, right? And then the colony actually stayed resilient all the way till the next flights, and the queen put I got my hands into one queen. Actually, one of my daughters got a hand into one queen, and we thought, well, I think there's a chance that we can merge that queen with the current workers that we have. So we're gonna do our best to merge them. We went through a little small process to do so, and it worked. Then that queen put more eggs, and the whole process started. And that queen in that colony is still alive.
Wow!
So they're gonna be turning 1 year with the new queen, if not 2 years. But with the new queen, it's gonna be 1 year this coming March or so. Or was it April that we found that queen?
I think it was April.
I think it was April, right? So around April, I think. And I'm hoping that this year that colony actually has a stronger chance. Technically
Yeah,
speaking, that queen was boosted because it started with workers.
yeah,
So I think it's doing much better than the first original queen was
yeah.
at that stage. Yeah.
That's really interesting because obviously it doesn't normally work to add a queen to a already established colony. So that's really interesting and amazing. Is there any special? You said you did a process to do it. What was the process you went through?
Well, the process was just to do it under cold temperature on the connection the whole time that they were connected, and that I was hoping that they would take it in and not be aggressive. They were relatively at a low temperature, but not a freezing cold diapause temperature. So if I recall correctly, I had them sitting down around 12 degrees Celsius. So it
Okay.
wasn't the hottest, it also wasn't the coldest, and I was
Yeah.
hoping that it would just replicate a queen having a flight into a sort of a normal day temperature for a flight
Yeah.
for them. We noticed that they fly around 12, 15 degrees. It's like the first hot day before spring, which is really not hot.
No, not at all.
It's not at all, but we still go out in shorts. We're happy to see that the snow is melting. So that's around 12 or so degrees in my observation. And so I just put them at that temperature, thinking this is going to be a queen. This is going to happen to find a colony without a queen, and hopefully they'll take her in and no problems. And that's exactly what happened.
They were doomed anyway, right? So it was either try it or let them die.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, no, totally. I would have probably done the same. Yeah.
We're
Well
trying to
done,
save
like,
them, yes.
hats
We got a couple other Parental Lepus imperius that's at the same time, but those ended up being sold. So we only kept that one colony because of the, I guess, the attachment at that point, trying to fight for that colony to be
Yeah,
alive. So
yeah.
that's the only one we didn't let go.
Do you have a favorite species of ants or a dream species that you want to keep?
I like the Paranolepis imperius, but I also like the Nova because it's red and I like red.
Yeah, that's fair, yeah.
I am interested in that point. I think I like smaller ants. I discovered that I have an affinity for small ants, and I think it's because I like to design small things.
Yeah.
I have discovered that the majority of the designs where I put the most energy and effort have to do with small, tiny details. So I like colonies that grow very massively. I'm very the explosion factor is something that is very interesting to me, and I think for a lot of ant keepers. But for some reason, I tend to spend more time observing small, tiny nano setups. So the acorn project with those ants for me is something that I'm really looking forward to. I wouldn't say it's my favorite species, but I'm looking forward at observing how they manage to stay in a relatively conservative spacing through time. So I'm looking forward to that. I also have another species. It's very, very, very small. Let me see if I have it here. I want to say the name correctly. Yeah. So Brachymyrmex, the Pilis.
Okay, yeah.
I don't even know. I actually started with 2 queens. I found 2 queens around 2 years ago. And by now, only one colony has survived. But this queen is roughly 4 to 5 millimeters long. And the workers are around 1 millimeter long. 1.5.
Wow.
So they're really, really tiny.
Yeah.
And they grow very, 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 very slow. I haven't noticed an explosion in their growth.
Okay.
So I have them in a somewhat experimental test tube insert. It's an interesting concept because they are inside of a test tube. The water chamber has a cotton stopper, so that cotton's never going to move.
Yeah.
And they're sandwiched on an insert that is actually a cylinder. So there's only a 2 millimeter gap between the inside of the inside glass of the test tube and the insert plastic cylinder. And they have a little bit of substrate in between the wall of the test tube and the wall of the insert. So they've been there for now 1.5 years, a little over a year, and they're doing well. They're just not growing massively fast. They're doing well. So I guess my dream colony would be something similar, maybe perhaps the same species or something very similar in size, to grow as big as possible, but still be the smallest colony you can have. So be able to say, oh, this is a mature full-size colony, but in reality, there are only 500 workers in this little tiny small setup.
Yeah.
That would be what I want to see.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Have you ever thought about keeping Solenopsis, as they're sort of spreading everywhere at the moment, and I'm sure they'll reach you soon?
I don't think I have permission. Not sure. Do I have permission?
Are they fire ants?
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah. That is fair. I honestly, I wouldn't even keep them. I can keep them, but it's what they're more stressed than they are fun, in my personal opinion. Like the rate of growth, and it's just so much to keep up with. It's a bit crazy.
I think it's more to do with safety as well, because we have kids, and half of them are relatively small, and the other half that are not so small, they're adventurous if they want to experiment. So either way, it's just keeping the kids from some things. We have Pogonomyrmex, and we ended up doing a trade again when the colony grew big. And again, it all had to do with the risk of the sting being quite aggressive. I actually grew up in Mexico, and without knowing, I actually really liked ants. I also remember wanting an ant farm when I was a kid, but that was not necessarily available to me at that age. Neither did my parents know anything about it, nor there was any way of getting really good, easy information to them. It's just not as popular down there at my age, in my generation. But that doesn't mean that I personally didn't have fun with them. Ants are very popular in my hometown, in the sense that they're everywhere. The climate it's hot. There's barely any cold. There's no diapause over there, so you have ants all year long, all kinds of species. And I used to have a lot of fun in the outdoors. I was a science kid, I guess, observational, experimenting in the backyard for hours through the day. No computers, no games, no video games, nothing. Just plain old backyard fun. And I actually had a lot of fun with ants. And Pogonomyrmex was a species that was very, very commonly found in my grandma's backyard. And I used to spend a lot of time at her house, and I have been stung by them multiple times. Multiple times. So when I actually came to Canada and finally had Pogonomyrmex now as an ant keeper, when I first saw that ant, the first thing I said, oh yes, I actually know them.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that this was my childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. Pretty painful.
Yeah, of course. That is really interesting. So, in Mexico, where you grew up, it was Mexico, wasn't it? I did remember that, right?
Yeah.
Do you have like larger ants because it's warmer there? Do you say like on average you get larger ants in the warmer climates?
Well, this is empirical. It's not an actual observation, and we've got to remember that when I used to live back in Mexico, I wasn't officially an ant keeper.
Of course,
I was passionate about ants and insects in general and nature, but I had not discovered the label or the hobby. So just my general observation for what I remember, ironically, here in Canada is when I saw bigger ants more often. Campanadas ants are a species that when I started observing them out there, I thought, oh, this is actually a pretty good size ant.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's no big ants in Mexico. There's absolutely big ants in Mexico, and there's also campanadas, but they're not necessarily the more popular ant that you would find in the backyards. Actually, the smaller ants are very, very common. Fire ants are also invasive in Mexico and also very, very, very popular, as well as the Argentinian ant, because the warm weather. And they're relatively small ants.
Yes, they are,
Campanadas. So I think that's what we're more used to seeing. And I also been swarmed by fire ants, by the way. Like, I know what that is because of my camping trips. And I've been swarmed by fire ants probably like 5 times in my life. That's just me putting my let's say I was swimming by the river and then I got out. They like to do nests not very far from river streams. And then you're barefoot and all of a sudden you step on a nest, didn't even notice. So that has happened to me on my camping trips when I was a youngster. So that's the ants that we tend to see in Mexico. They're not necessarily the biggest ones. They're very, very quick moving ants. They're relatively small. They love heat and they move very, very quick. So medium size, I would say.
Yeah, normal
Medium.
kind of thing. Okay. Do you like any inbreeding species? We got a question here from Shane. Do you like inbreeding species of ants? So I think the Argentine ants, the things like ghost ants, monomorium, things like that, they all breed interbreed.
I wouldn't say that we have a preference or a dislike for.
I don't even think we have one here in Canada.
Not the most popular option, no. Yeah, but I think there's going to be a lot of available species soon. We have a partner business. They also sell our merchandise, Canada Ant Colony. They're working there very hard at getting a lot of permits approved to be able to bring some of those exotic species. And it's actually really exciting because we're going to have a bit of a task also understanding what ant keepers are going to need to house these species safely and avoid any escapes. In some cases, maybe, it's not for sure, but maybe even having the proper enclosure to be able to import them is going to be important.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's going to be fun for sure, but not something that we are right now at that stage. So hopefully in the next couple of months, as we reopen again the season this year here in Canada, that's going to become reality.
That's actually really cool the way that you're going to link up that. Would you mind sending me the links to them at some point? Because I've never heard of that shop before.
Well, it's not a show. So here in Canada, a shop, sorry. I understood show. Here in Canada, there's really not a lot of businesses, which is one of the reasons why we were sparked into starting to create things for Canadians made in Canada. And the other business, which is very popular around here, their strength is precisely that. The acquiring the ants, knowing where to find them, how to grow them, getting as much variety as possible. And we often have access to that catalog and have it in our shop so we can bundle purchases with the merchandise as well. So we work together in that way. So for us, that's actually very exciting because it makes us have more time to dedicate to the hardware while still having somewhat access and resources from all of these different species. And we get to experience them and see them and photograph them and have fun with them as well. So that's cool. Yeah.
That's really cool. We've just got another question here from Dave's Ants. Have you got any natural setups or are they all artificial ones?
For sale or for personal colonies?
Either for personal use.
Well, we can divide it, right? For sale, we do have an all-natural cube formicarium, which is just a little tiny enclosure that tries to keep the ants closer to the walls, but on the top.
Okay, cool, yeah.
Somewhat of a more naturalistic approach, but it's not the biggest. It's a pretty compact. This equipment is very, very compact. And then something that would be resembling, but not really a vivarium, for example, it's a tunneling formicarium, the typical sandwich, where you have that. Now, for us, we do have some naturalistic setups right now, but they are more for isopods and springtails.
Okay.
So it's a really small, little, tiny habitat that we did for our kids to observe those springtails, and we're hoping that when we have this year a bigger species or something to put into a bigger tank, which we already have the tank, we just haven't actually. We're just waiting for the ants to come out of diapause, and then make the selection on what's going to work best. We are planning on this little small aquarium. It's like a half a circle.
Okay,
aquarium, and be able to print some add-on to, again, create that gap against the wall, the glass, and see the ants digging and whatnot, but also having some natural plants and whatnot, and these isopods and all these other animals to springtails, right, to try to create that more natural habitat. But I think that's a project for later on this year with the kids. So it's there, it's ready.
That's cool. Do you have any other future plans that you haven't already mentioned that you want to bring up?
Well, there's lots of products. There's too. I wouldn't say too many. I'm happy that there's too many ideas, but but what there's not enough is time. And we have a lot of feedback from our customers, which I think I really want to say thank you to all of our customers, because a lot of them are actually in contact with us quite often. Even before we had the Discord, which is relatively new to us. This whole Discord situation is new to us. Even before that, our website already featured a chat icon. So on the page, you can access a chat function that as soon as you log in or register to your account, it activates that chat feature. And then you can chat with us live, whatever questions you have, whatever support you need, feedback, anything you want to send to us, you start having that conversation one-on-one with us. So before Discord even existed, we already had a large community of customers that would come to us and very often gives us updates on what's going on with the equipment or their experience. And that has honestly sparked lots of ideas for new things to develop. Or sometimes the customers request those ideas. Hey, can you guys make specifically this to do this for this specific purpose? I would like for you to make one and I will buy it. And okay, yes, I guess we can find the time to get that done. So talking about the future, I think there's a lot of ideas on the list. We're just getting started 2022 and you're going to see 4 new products. Here on the photos that we were sliding at the beginning, you only really saw 2 or 3 products, not the full list. And that's just the beginning. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the year as we develop all of those pending ideas. And then the other thing, volume is getting quite intense, which again, we're very grateful for. But we've definitely reached some periods of time, most of the last year, where we were getting more orders in and more requests than what we can actually produce. So they started creating a waiting list, not the longest, but still creating a waiting list. So this year we're already forecasting that we're going to need to ramp up that production. So I guess that's some of the new changes that are coming, that we're just expanding into being able to produce more faster.
We are also looking into expanding into Mexico. That we don't have an estimated time of when that will happen, but it is. We are already looking into it. If there's anyone in Europe that wants to sell our stuff, email me. We also started our Discord, and it's pretty cool because you can level up, and as you level up, you get discounts to the shop permanently.
That's impressive. So, that's handy.
Yeah. So you eventually, let's say, have 5% off. You get 5% off, not just once, but every time you shop in our store. Wow. And you can still level up, get to 10%, and so on and so forth. So it's really cool. You guys should join our Discord, because you save money. And as I mentioned earlier, we also updated our website so that it will automatically give you approximate cost in the currency in the country that you are in. A lot of people go into our website before and they're like, that's a lot of money for shipping. But once you convert it, it's actually not that much.
It's not that much, no.
Yeah. So I was like, let me look into it. And so I made some adjustments and made it happen. So check it out. Don't let the Canadian dollar scare you.
I don't know why they're not as valuable as other dollars, but to be the case. It seems to be the case.
But yeah, check it out. We are happy to work with anyone that has an idea. If you guys have an idea on or are looking for something specific and you can't find it in any other ant shop, we are more than happy to work with you and make something, a custom make something for you. So just reach out to us through Discord, Facebook, Instagram, email, chat on our website. So many ways to contact us. We're on YouTube as well. We don't make it. Oh, that's another thing that we're going to look into, making more YouTube content more often. So we're working on that as well.
That's really cool. I was going to ask you about your YouTube content. Is it you which makes that yourself, or do you have a third party do that?
Well, we wish we had a third party, and not because we don't like doing it. It's because it's really hard to do it. So what we've done so far, it's been DIY, us having the time and the effort to do it. but it's also not easy. So we do have to recognize out there for everybody who creates content, we're in no way as good as a lot of people are, but we definitely recognize how difficult it is, but at the same time, how important it is. And as an ant shop, we understand that if we're able to show you us using the products in these videos, there's a lot of questions that clarify much faster than just reading the product description. I mean, we try our best to write down in the product description everything possible for you to understand the product, but watching a video of the product in use will always be the fastest way to understand that product. So we're looking forward to that. But as I already mentioned, 2021, we were so busy getting all of those orders out as fast as possible that making YouTube updates became okay, next week we'll have more time. And then next week we'll have more time. And then 2 weeks later we'll have more time. And then we ended up not having time. So this year, the question is very simple. Do we want to dedicate more time to YouTube? Yes, but not at the cost of not being able to keep working on what matters the most, which is giving you the equipment for having fun with your ants, right? So if a third party ends up joining and helping us develop more, maybe they just help us recording and they work more on the editing part, that would be good. And hopefully something that we need to do soon.
Yeah, that's fair.
Discord has also definitely helped sped that up. I've been posting videos of little small things that I'm doing at the shop. If I'm working with a 3D printer or a technique on gluing this and attaching that. And I've been actually enjoying the fact that I can easily just record non-formally and share still content on there. And then there's the voice chats and the video chats. And I think we're going to be doing more presentations, being able to have the photos of the product and the video and be able to clarify. I think we're waiting until there's a bit more followers on the channels, on the server to be able to take advantage of that. But again, we just launched it. It's only been, I think, 2 months or so since it started, and we are already close to 100.
There's also giveaways.
Yeah, there's also the giveaways, which are definitely fun. I never thought people would be so interested in free stuff. There's always a lot of people signing up. There's the
free
of
stuff.
course, right? I like trivia a lot. Again, for those who participate, it can get very competitive, and I really like investigating and learning for all of those trivia questions. And one thing that I'm super excited about are the journals. This is something that we just did this week, right? It was this week. Keeper journals on the server, and what it's doing, it's giving you the space and your private channel. So you're an ant keeper, you have a colony that you want to track down, but you also want to share and have feedback from the community. But you don't want everybody writing on your space. So you can have your own channel on the server, just dedicated to you. You write whatever you want, you photograph, no one can touch it, no one can go typing, nothing is yours. You could maybe ask for questions using reactions like emoji, thumbs up, and thumbs down. You could get some feedback. There's a channel to discuss publicly things on these journals as well. And what I really like about that is that it's going to create a database where people can learn about what other people are doing. So if I'm able to see other ant keeper and their journey, and we can see with photos and videos and notes how they document that process, that would allow somebody who has never had access to that species to somewhat follow the story and learn and maybe know a little bit about it even before buying it. So it has nothing to do with our products. I'm hoping to see photos of my products there, of course, but more importantly, it's about having the open space for people to share their ant keeping experiences somewhat privately, but still be showcased.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good idea, actually. Like being able to share your story, like you say, and like without people able to comment on it, you can kind of do it judgment free and probably be happier to share more than otherwise. You know what I mean? That's a really good idea. I like that a lot.
We also wanted to have a space where it's safe for like little children to go and anyone that's interested in ant keeping. So we have like people still get away with they still find a way to cuss a little bit, but it's a lot more censored than some of the other discords that I've seen. So if your kids are interested in ant keeping, and they're allowed to use Discord, we welcome them to our Discord as well, because we want to keep it as clean as possible, so that is a place for little ant keepers as well.
Yeah, it can be fun for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, my middle daughter loves ant keeping. She quite often does it with me. She's actually got her own YouTube channel as well, but we've turned the comments off completely, so no one can leave her any comments, good or bad. It's just safer that way, you know.
Yeah.
I understand that. I think that's pretty. It's hard to control. It's hard to predict, so it's better to be safe.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, and she is actually, her content's really good, and she's really passionate about it. So it would be a shame if something ruined that now, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when they're so little, right? Anything can scare them away from.
Yeah, and it can be quite traumatic being trolled at that age.
Yeah. Don't troll, guys. Don't do it. Don't.
No. People regret trolling me because I chase them down the streets. So here's a bit of a strange question for you. What is the strangest thing you've ever fed to an ant colony?
The strangest thing. Not boogies.
No.
Yeah, I saw a video, but what was it?
Yeah, not boogies.
Not boogies. Well, I just random bugs, I guess, that we find, and my kids find all these sort of bugs around the house. And the cool thing is that we live in the middle of nowhere.
I know.
So there's not a lot of insecticides being used around my area, which I find good.
Budgie poop.
I guess you could say that, and and that's been an experiment just because we read about sometimes the necessity to have, how do you pronounce that correctly? Urea?
Right.
For campanadas. So we happen to have budgies, and sometimes there's droppings that we can easily scoop, put in a little tiny small micro dish, and see if by any chance there's any reaction. So I think that would be the weirdest thing that we have fed our campanadas. Did I get a reaction? I'm not sure. They did check it out. Did they actually eat it or use any of it? No idea. Maybe.
Hard to say.
Yeah.
That is a weird one, because obviously there is still traces of protein and stuff in there, but it's a bit, no, they're probably looking for a cleaner source.
I have no clue. I do know that there's in some cases where they scavenge it, but that's exactly the experiment and what I'm hoping to learn by just having it available.
Yeah, it's rumored that you can give budgie poop. And so we're like, let's try it out.
Now, I think
I've seen it. I've seen seagull poop being used the same by ants around me. But I think ants that we keep in captivity get used to having the same sort of clean foods, if you know what I mean. They get used to that environment, don't they? And I think odd things they just kind of leave alone.
Right, yeah.
I have a colony of Myrmicina americana, or so far that's what we believe. It's quite hard to ID these species. I think next time I have a chance to photograph ants again, I'm going to take my macro equipment, and as soon as I have a chance to have a dead worker as a sample, I'm going to try to get as much close-ups as possible to try to confirm the species. But these specific colonies growing really, really slow. They're just in their first year, and I barely have 11 workers.
Okay.
So I thought they will have a much faster development, but no. Apparently that if it's the Americana species, they actually way slower, and they're incredibly picky eaters. That's what I discovered. They can have all this variety of different bugs, and I have put the whole entire catalog of different bugs and insects, and the only thing they normally like to take quite easily is wingless fruit flies. Yes. That so far has never failed, but they barely touch anything else. And they're not very picky with the sweets. They go for the syrups, the honey, the just diluted sugar. I had luck with the sweets for everything. It's just the proteins they're super picky about. So yeah, I tried everything.
That leads us on to our next question. What do you prefer in ways of feeding carbohydrates? Do you use like the liquids, or do you make up your own mix as and when you need it? Or
we have Formy syrup. That's what we use. That we sell it in the shop.
Yeah.
We don't ship that worldwide, so that would only be for Canadians. And we also have Formy protein, which is also only for Canadians.
Yeah. So the food supply is only cheap within Canada.
Yeah. We just don't want to complicate things with the borders. So that's what we give them, is the Formy syrup most often.
Most often is the Formy syrup. So for the protein, we don't necessarily rely on the powder, the Formy protein. I think the Formy protein has a little bit of polemic, because is it meant to be a solution for feeding your ants all inclusive? And the answer is straightforward: no. It's more a convenience, or if by any chance you run out of insects, or you need something quick and fast, or you are a parent and don't want to deal with a lot of the bug side of things.
Yeah.
But we don't necessarily rely on it. So the main source of food for all of our colonies is insects. And we have fruit fly colonies, mostly fruit fly colonies, wingless and with wings.
Yeah.
So the ones that also fly, we also have some colonies of normal flies, and that's the number one source of all of the protein. For the sweets, we do rely a lot on the Formy syrup that we use, and the reason for that is because we have the Formy syrup that we use. We have it in big batches. And it goes very well when you dilute it with water. So in our website, you're gonna see this little tiny small bottle. Turns out that if you dilute that bottle with at least 1 part syrup, 1 part water, you're getting pretty much double the product. And you can add even more water than that. And so actually don't necessarily like their sweets incredibly concentrated. They no, again, I'm generalizing, not saying all the species, but in general, a more runny solution of sweets is better taken by the ants than a very heavily concentrated, sticky solution of sweets. So Formy syrup for us has been very practical. We just take a little bit out, dilute it with water, and with a dropper very quickly dispense a couple of drops to all the small colonies. And the thing about Formy syrup is that it's mostly based out of our organic honeys, in particular maple syrup, which has a lot of sucrose. And sucrose, out of our investigation, happens to be not the most preferred type of sugar for ants, but one of the most preferred types of sugars for ants. It's not the powder version, which means it also still contains a lot of trace elements, natural antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. I'm not saying that ants need to have their vitamin gummies, but instead of just having pure carbohydrates, at least they're coming from a source that may have other nutrients in there that they may need.
And as Canadian ants, they need maple syrup.
They need to have maple syrup in there.
Yeah, that's it. That's actually really interesting, and I like the way you've done a lot of research into the actual sugars that ants prefer. That's really interesting and well done to you. Do you use little ant towers, or do you put it on cotton, or what's your preferred way of feeding them?
We actually have 2 different liquid feeders that we offer on our website, and we use both of them. Most recently, we prefer the tower. There it is, that tower. Just because it fits so much better in the smaller outworlds that we have, but we also have one with like a dish, so that it's less likely to leak and make a huge mess in your outworld, which you can also see there. We also have these little nano dishes where you can put the protein and the sugars. And it's super small. You can even put it in your tubes. That we also use a lot for the colonies that we have for sale, because they're all in test tubes. So we just kind of open it up, stick in a dish, close it back up, and then remove it when they're done.
Yeah. So what's the number one device that we use for feeding all of the colonies? It's this little tiny dish, actually. Yeah.
That's really cool, really handy. Because one thing I always struggle with is getting the tin foil and like trying to get the right size tin foil to go into the tube. I always get that bit wrong, make it too big, and it all turns into a kerfuffle. I'm not very good with test tubes. Let's be honest. I'm just not very good with feeding in test tubes at all.
Yeah. So these little nano dish used to be made with traditional 3D printers, the FDM printers. But over this weekend, or yeah, pretty much over this weekend, I was able to finally produce it with the resin 3D printer. So the resin 3D printer uses UV resin, and it produces a much better detail. So a lot of these little tiny small dishes are going to start being made with actual hard resin versus the filament. Um, and then the other one that we use a lot is this little dish as well. So it's a little bit
Okay,
bigger.
yeah.
This wouldn't fit inside of a test tube for sure. But for your bigger colonies inside of an hour world, this little tiny small dish, one of the dishes that we use the most.
And for liquid feeders, we have this one that it has like a mesh on the bottom so that it doesn't leak. It prevents it from leaking. So far, we have not had any leak on us. So far so good. And then we have the original tower that we had, or the original liquid feeder that we had, that had, as I mentioned, like a dish in case it does leak. It kind of catches it. You could also add legs so that. So one of the problems when we were putting liquid feeders was not squishing ants. when you have so many, right? So then we added legs, and you can get yours with legs or without, so that it's less likely to squish your ants.
That's really ingenious, actually, because that is one issue I've had in some of my colonies, is trying to place the tower down with no ants underneath it.
Yeah. So here you have space under it, so it also makes it harder for them to. You know how often ants will bring sand and debris and just make a big mess. So when it's elevated, you're not completely preventing it, but you're making it a little bit harder for them to achieve that.
Yeah, no, I really like that. That's a great design as well to catch it. I've seen quite often people will put the towers inside like a bottle cap or something, just exactly like that. Like you've just built a much better version of it. That's really good.
And well, there's your classic insert that goes inside of the tester with a sort of like a tray concept. We still prefer the little small tiny little dish. It uses so little space that it's more than enough. You gotta hear
I really like that.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Anyway, yeah. What other questions do you have?
Okay. So have you got any bad experiences that you want to share with us? Like, has anything ever gone drastically wrong for you? And yeah.
Well,
I think
the Formica. I don't know what happened. I don't know what we did, but something happened.
Yeah, so I bad experience, but that's from an ant keeper point of view. Just not, and I think we all have experienced that at some point something happens and you have no idea what's going on, right?
Yeah,
why is this happening? Why are the ants reacting this way? Why are there like ants dying and things like that? So that can be very stressful when you have no clue what's going on. I think when you've been messing around, you've been changing things, you've been offering new things, you've been doing things different. It's easier to say, oh, okay, well, I screwed up, I did something new. And then you find the problem. I think when it's most frustrating is when you've been doing the same thing that's been working all along, and then all of a sudden something happens.
Yeah.
And that's when it gets harder and more frustrating to try to find out a solution. That happened to us. We had no clue what to do. So that became quite frustrating. But from a business point of view, I think so far things have been very, very good and very reliable. Customers have been very nice. Knock on wood, yeah. We've been able to send out everything that we need to when we needed to, how we needed to, and customers are relatively happy. So that's good. Sorry.
You're all right. Do what you need to do. That's fine.
So yeah, things have actually worked out quite well as a business. We're not as big as we think the business can be, but we're growing in that direction quite well. So
Yeah.
that's actually quite exciting.
Yeah. I mean, from what I've seen, it's definitely growing at a good pace. All your products are absolutely amazing, and like, you know, they're doing really well. And as soon as people see your products, they're hooked. Basically, is from what I've heard. I am yet to use your products. I can admit that, but I'm slowly getting round there. You know, I've just ordered my first one from Tar Heel Ants, so I've just hit America. I'm going to do Canada next. So
That's
you
cool.
can get one from me very soon, I expect. I quite like the idea of your, we could say, commissioned things. Like, I've got some crazy ideas, as you can probably imagine. So I expect they'll be talking to you about that in the near future. And
Yeah.
I mean, shipping to the UK, I'm not sure what the shipping to the UK is, but it can't be that much from Canada. And let's be honest, if it's a good product, it's worth the shipping. Simple as that. That's
Yeah, I think for the UK, the only benefits in terms of pricing, of course, I'm talking just in terms of pricing, is the fact that the Canadian dollar is cheaper. So you think you're paying 35 Canadian dollars. In reality, you're not. It's under $30, right? So that makes up for the shipping. And the other thing is the pricing on the package varies by weight. So of course, if you're making the biggest order with the biggest formicarium with the heaviest items, that's going to require one of the bigger boxes. Your shipping is going to be higher. I am making a lot of setups that are, again, considered nano or compact. And those are relatively easy to put into a small little tiny box. So a lot of the orders that have gone past Canada and the US have been mostly on the nano and small setups. That's something that I have observed. Our biggest formicarium measures almost 20 by 20 centimeters, so that's quite a big,
quite large, yeah,
big box when you package it and protect it and everything that needs to go around it. But that formicarium has only shipped to Canada and the US.
Okay.
So I think I'm not surprised. What I'm trying to say, I'm not surprised that the further away orders seem to be the smaller products, but those smaller products happen to be pretty fun. And interesting, and that's where I'm putting a lot of efforts into the innovation. So I think that's a good trade-off.
But the big ones are pretty cool too and worth the money.
That is true. The other reason why I don't think the biggest ones have traveled that far, I think it's just popularity. So as an ant keeper, what are you going to more likely have? More colonies in the founding stages. And then some of them are going to perish because that's what happens when we're ant keepers and we're learning. And then finally, you get just a handful of colonies to grow into the more mature, bigger stages. So the reality of things is that the majority of the ant keepers out there, the big bulk, don't really need the biggest nests. Even though a lot of them want to buy the biggest nest, chances are you don't need a big nest. The majority of us need to start with small, tiny, smart, compact setups, and that's something that I'm putting a lot of effort into. So
But also, you could get discounts in our Discord.
that a part of us are very excited about that Discord discount role attachment. So your participation directly translates into leveling up and gaining XP points, and then those XP points give you discounts. It reminds me of those restaurants where you have a playground with tickets, video games that give you those tickets, and then you go and trade them for a toy, right? So the Discord, pretty much your participation gets traded off for points that give you rewards. And a part of us is very excited about those rewards. Of course, there's another part of us that are very nervous that everybody's going to get a discount. So, but if everybody gets a discount, I think that's a good thing as well. So
there's also giveaways, and when it's an item that we're giving away, then we try to keep it between Canadian and US participants. But when we're giving away, let's say, $20 off your next purchase or anything like that, then that is open for everyone worldwide.
Worldwide participation.
And if you want to participate in the Canadian and US giveaways, we just ask that you pay for shipping if you win the product, because shipping for us to Europe, let's say, is a little bit more than
a local,
than shipping local. So check it out, guys.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's 100% worth checking out. If anyone isn't going to check it out, they're absolutely stupid.
You said
we all
it.
like money off. We all like money off. Have you got any really amazing stories that you want to tell, like amazing success or something funny happened with your ants? I mean, one time I dropped the test tube from this hand, did like a ninja skill and caught it in this hand perfectly. Not a single ant was hurt.
I don't touch bugs, including ants. Yeah. No.
Wow.
I freak out as soon as they come out of the test tube. I'm like, ah!
And that has been an incredible source of inspiration for making sure the designs work well.
For moms.
Because, which makes sense. Lexi enjoys the hobby and she participates in the hobby and she does everything as long as the situation is under control.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's a really great ant keeper when things are the way they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
I handle the random issues. So when things hit the fan and ants go out of control, something out of the ordinary, a mistake, right? A tube got disconnected when it shouldn't have, and stuff like that happens. I am the one who jumps in. And I'm not saying I'm okay with ants crawling all over my body, but sometimes I have an ant crawling over here while I'm hunting down another ant with this finger, and I have a third one that escaped with the hand. And the other hand is working in resolving the issue that caused the problem. My kid disconnected something.
And I'm in the background.
And I have the ants on my hands, so I'm just putting them back quickly without any casualties. So I think I can handle more the random panic attack situations. But that has given me a lot of, when I'm designing the product, how do I make sure that this is safe for the average parent that would freak out?
I'm so average.
The other thing that has happened to me is Walter White. Well, I wouldn't say it like that, but Walter White, chemist, doing all of these chemical experiments, because of the resin printer, I've been discovering my evolution as an ant shop employee or worker. And often you'll find me with a gas mask, UV protection on my eyes, gloves all the way up here because I'm touching all these chemicals and substances. And I find myself in the mirror looking at me going, I'm just making ant farms. Why do I have all this protection? Alcohol, for example, got incredibly hard to get during COVID, and the resin printer needs lots of isopropyl alcohol to clean up all those parts. And when it gets hard to get, turns out that I had to figure out how to recycle it and purify it after it was used. And that alone was an entire adventure. And that's why I say I felt funny, because I started looking more like a chemist. Doing some laboratory analysis. So it's been fun. A lot of transformation and learning, trying to get those products out there. But I'm stubborn about the resin printer. The quality that it produces is just amazing. So Breaking Bad style, pretty much.
I like that as well. Yeah.
There was a moment in time where there was a slight shortage in 3D
printers,
3D printers and the filaments, and that kind of put him in a panic where he was like, oh no, if there's a shortage, we're screwed. So we kind of got into a little bit of a panic, but so far so good. We haven't had any major issues or anything like that. So
I'm not sure how many of the people watching are used to or know or have worked with a 3D printer, but 3D printers are very nice until they're not. until they stop working, and then you got to go into a lot of mechanical and electronic engineering and whatnot, all these resources and whatnot to get them up and running. One of the easiest ways to get into troubles with 3D printing is changing your 3D filament brand often, because they all come, they have different qualities, different viscosity, different tolerances, different working temperatures. They all need to be calibrated. And there was a period in time, because again, COVID, or that's what I was explaining, COVID, the supply got really hard to find, and I was getting a new brand of filament every few rolls.
Right.
So that drove me nuts. The amount of calibration that had to happen to keep the shop up and running, not knowing if I was going to be able to get my 10 rolls versus only one roll shipped to me was nerve-wracking. And we normally get a lot of filament shipped to us all at once. We if you send me just one filament, that we can go through that in a matter of just 2 or 3 days.
Wow. Okay.
1 kilogram of filament disappears in just a matter of days in this place. And
wow,
if it's peak season, it could last just 24 hours. One printer, one filament roll, gone.
Wow. Okay.
So at some point, I had my last box of 10. I'm looking at the box, and I only had 2 filament rolls left. And there's just out of stock everywhere. So yeah, that was a scary moment, but we were able to get through. And the cool thing is that we found a Canadian supplier.
Okay.
You guys want to support someone Canadian, the ones who live here in Canada, check out filaments.ca. And the cool thing is that we have now a processing plant that creates filament just an hour down the road. So we've been able to have a local producer, and they're giving me a brand of PLA that it's high quality PLA, the pro specification for PLA, and more importantly, it's food safe. And the formulation for the PLA makes it very, very, very safe for the ants as well. So we've been running into good quality plastic. Fingers crossed it doesn't run out later.
yeah. Like everything's sort of running out because of COVID.
Yeah.
Damn you, COVID.
I'm just going to say, if anyone in the chat has any questions that I haven't yet asked, please do post them up now, because we're looking to close the interview in the next 10 to 15 minutes. Maybe slightly before that.
Just going to scroll down the product list here.
We've also added blackout lids for all of our formicariums.
Oh, perfect. That was actually another question I was going to get through to. Do you just prefer to use the red filters? Because I saw on your website there's a lot of red there, but you say now they have blackout filters as well?
Yeah, so there's a lot of red. It's our colors. It's like, white, black, red. That's what we always use. But we slowly were getting the designs for the blackout lids. And we got I believe all of the designs are complete.
Yeah, now all of the products that we have created, all of them have the blackout. It's a lot of polemic here, because what species really require to be on the dark, which ones are sensitive or not sensitive. And there's been research also done, and most ant species can actually get used to a certain level of light.
Yeah.
They seem to be more receptive to drastic changes in the conditions of the light, not so much if it's dark or bright. But again, it's one of those species dependent, and I also want to say human keeper dependent. Whatever the ant keeper feels the most comfortable with, whatever works for them is really what's going to be best for your ants. So yeah, we now have the option to have our formicariums come with plain, nothing. Some people order plain and they just like it that way. Some people like red, and some people prefer the blackout. If I were to say market research, what we have observed customers doing out there, most of our customers prefer to order both the blackout and the red film, and I guess they use it as they feel needed.
Yeah.
And 75% of all of the orders will have a blackout or a red film included, while 25% of our customers would order plain with nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems to be the preference to protect the ants from the light. Yeah.
Yeah. in my personal experience, I've always tried to keep them as in the dark as possible. With some
Yeah.
species, I've started using red, and for the first time ever, I've left one completely uncovered. They're in a very shaded area, so it's very dark in the nest, and anyways. But
Yeah.
yeah, first time ever, I've actually left it completely blank just to see what happens. And I will say it is probably my favorite one to watch currently because I can see everything going on inside the nest really easily. I don't
Yeah.
normally have that luxury at all.
That is, I don't want to give the wrong advice, and I want to make sure people understand that it is your personal choice more than
Yeah.
anything, because I also have to recognize I really like the blackout lids. Yes, I have a lot of fun with them. They're very sturdy, and they protect from light. But most people I have observed, when they go and remove the little tiny lids, they do more harm by
Yeah.
introducing vibration. You're touching, you're vibrating, you're moving, and that actually tends to scare the ants. So a lot of people say, oh, my ants are scared of the light because when I remove the lid, they're running like crazy. And it may not be the light, it may be actually all of that vibration that got introduced by you touching the setup.
Yeah.
So having them exposed to the light 24/7 and being used to those conditions means that you can just lean over, look at them, and not even have to touch the setup. And that may actually be beneficial for some species again,
Yeah.
compared to having to touch the setup. The red film, it's sort of a happy medium where there's some sort of protection from intense light. There's still some light that is passing through, hoping that some species wouldn't notice the color red, but at least you can still see inside of the setup, same benefit without touching the setup. So
Yeah.
I don't want to say what's right or wrong. I think it depends. A lot of the species that we have here, we do keep them in the dark. That's just because uh, most of the ants are living in test tube setups, and I have all of these racks that are black printed plastic, so it's easy for me to have them all organized in that rack system. So it's more because of organization, but they end up getting the benefit of being contained in the dark space. So
Yeah.
most of
I mean,
the ants work that way.
Yeah, most ants prefer being in the dark anyways, so I mean that's perfect. The ones I've always found were Mesa barbarus can see the red light, can't they? That's slightly irritating.
Yeah. So here you can see, for example, this product. That's exactly what it does. It's just keeping the ants in the dark test tube, completely sealed from the heat.
Like a blackout tube.
Yeah, and just the entrance chamber has that little tiny red film.
Yep. Okay, yeah, that's really nice. And then it's got an extension port off it as well, so you can connect it to a larger setup.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or a
I always
different-
think that's
different
really
test tube.
important. One thing I always look for in any formicarium or outworld or anything is multiple ports, because one's okay, but I like to put like a thermometer in. I like to put multiple things on each side. I might even want a test tube of water, So multiple ports is always a big thing for me.
Yeah.
I think all of our nests have ports
Yep.
to
There's a lot of
expand. Yeah.
Yeah, it is one thing I've noticed whilst browsing through your website, that a lot of your nests do have that multiple port option, which I do like, which I think is kind of missing from our market in the UK. I find a lot more of the nests in the UK have just that singular port at the moment, and it's quite irritating. Even if they're getting to be like larger nests, they still only got one port, some of them, and I think that's kind of, you need more, even if you block them up. I'd rather have the ability to have those access ports, even if they're not needed.
Yeah, our largest one I think has 4, no?
4. Wow, that is good.
Yeah.
I think my largest nest I own only has 3, so that is good.
I believe it's 4 that it has.
Yeah. So this is a massive formicarium. It's called the Hydropenta formicarium. And that's because it has 5 different sections of humidity.
Oh, wow.
So you can control those 5 sections independently. They're not interconnected. I mean, the ants can interconnect, obviously, but the watering is not necessarily interconnected. So you have 4 tubing sides here, 2 on each side. And that is done so that if you want to get 2 of these formicariums and connect them back to back together with each other, you can actually do that. You can just keep expanding this formicarium. Or maybe connect 2 different outworlds so you have 2 different sections. And I actually like doing the 2 separate outworlds in the same setup because that way you can feed in one.
Yeah.
All of the ants are going to swarm into that area. And then a couple of hours later after the feeding, then you go and clean up the older or the other outworld. You kind of create a distraction. So this formicarium has 4 ports allowing for easy expansion or multiple feeding areas. Rather than one big, humongous outworld, maybe you can connect 4 smaller ones.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I like that a lot. And how large is that sort of nest? Is it like about half the size of an A4 piece of paper, roughly? Just so we can gauge it in our minds.
Yeah, so this would be 18 centimeters by 18 centimeters.
Okay, that is quite large then, yeah.
I'm not sure if you need inches, but that's close to 7 inches square. And then the thickness or how tall it is, it's roughly around 3 centimeters tall.
Okay, wow. So yeah, really tall. So that's, you could put a massive colony in that, quite large ants as well by the looks of it. Have you had a chance to use it yourself?
This specific formicarium, we ourselves haven't used it. We have a customer that has housed a Tetramorium colony that is massive now. That used to be ours.
Yeah.
But then again, Tetramorium can easily pack the bigger formicariums.
Yeah, easily, yeah.
But yeah, I don't have one here at the house currently housed.
Okay.
Too big for any of my colonies right now. This product was launched probably now 3 months ago or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And we have only sold around 12 units.
Okay.
So it's relatively still new to us, but we're curious to get some photos on
I expect you sell less of the larger units because it's harder to get to that larger stage, isn't it? A lot of colonies die out before they get to that point.
Yeah.
Yes. So the products that we sell the most, I would say, is the bundles and kits. In that section, we have so let me go to that section. We have this.
In there.
It's called a founding startup kit.
Yeah.
This would be one of the top most selling products, and I'm actually happy that that's the case because, like I said, most people need to have a founding startup kit for most of the colonies, and that's what they're going to need for maybe the first year, even a year and a half, depending on the species. And this kit gives you exactly that. You have a little tiny small outworld, couple of feeding trays, liquid feeder, and 2 test tubes that I like to say they come fully dressed with all the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
So these test tubes have an insert. You get one insert that has the nice substrate, the sandy finish, and one that is the plain plastic. And more importantly, on the back, as you can see here, there's this plastic column. So we call that a cotton stopper.
Yeah.
And the cotton stopper, all it does is ensure that the cotton is tight and doesn't have a chance to walk backwards.
Yeah.
Also, when ants try to pull on this cotton, it's harder to do so because it's tighter. It's sitting against a grid on the insert. There's a grid pushing against the cotton.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, there's something keeping it firmly. So ants do less of a mess with the cotton as well. So that way you basically ensure that the humidity on your test tube is going to last longer at a much more stable amount because the cotton, which is keeping the water there, is in a stable position the whole entire time. So this kit gives you 2 fully dressed test tube inserts to be used with the little outworld, and then all the little tiny small accessories for you to get started. This is one of the products that sells the most.
I can see why, to be honest. That is a great little bundle. It's pretty much got everything that you need. And like you say, those extra little inserts with the test tube.
And when you see here, right, the most often problem that the ant keeper experiences in the first year that they're doing this, my colonies on that test tube, the test tube went all the way backwards. Now they have a lot of space. Maybe that colony is not growing as fast as the space inside of the test tube, and now I need to transfer them to a new setup. So this is already taken care of on this kit because you have 2 test tubes in there, and the little Outworld has 2 connection ports on each side. So when the original test tube is starting to run low, all you do is pretty much set up on the opposite side the new test tube, and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
So even that is kind of considered right from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I really like that, and I really like that Outworld as well. It looks really smart and clean. Yeah, it just looks really nice. So that's all in one bundle. That's really impressive, actually.
That is all in one. It's called the Founding Kit. The Founding Kit.
And I think the other bestseller is the mini jumbo. The mini jumbo. We created that for our first birthday. We released it on our first birthday. And it was sold out the first day.
It was sold out on the first day, yes.
Yeah, it was great.
So is the same design and style and size of little tiny mini glass Outworld. So this is a little tiny small glass Outworld. We're using a lot of glass because it's not scratch resistant, but it's harder to scratch than acrylic or plastic setup. And this setup, what it does, it houses a little small chamber paired with the Outworld on the side. So that creates a very inclusive all-in-one experience.
That's nice. And then do they just easily click together? I see you've got like 3 in a row there.
Yeah, the way the magnets are arranged and the connection ports. Let me see if I can. You see, there's connection ports on the back and on the side.
Yeah.
So because each one of the chambers has a connection port on the left and the right side, then you can literally just keep expanding one in front of the other, in front of the other, in front of the other, and they're going to interconnect all of them.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And technically, you could even back-to-back them because you've got another port on the back of it as well. So you could have like...
Yeah. You can have a row on the back.
Yeah.
And a row on the front and just keep expanding all these little tiny small chambers.
Wow, that's really impressive. I like that design as well. That would look really cool on my shelves.
Yeah, so most of these formicariums, the connection, the connectivity, the port, the height, it's intercompatible, so they can work with each other. The connection port's going to be roughly at the same height as the other formicarium, and so on. This one here, this product, I do want to give some updates for people that are watching this and they've been following us. This is one of the most famous products and one of the oldest, actually. So this is a test tube array formicarium. And what it does is, instead of just having one test tube for a colony, when you get started, when you have a small founding colony, you can start with this product because you can have them populate one tube. And as soon as they're ready for the next two, you just unplug the next one.
Yeah.
So it allows you to expand one test tube at a time. So it's 4 test tubes interconnected with a piece. And then the back of each test tube can be watered by a water hole. So I think I have a picture right here. Here you can see that. The water hole in the back allows you to inject water into this chamber. I don't know if I can find it. Sorry.
You just about see a little hole of it there. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what I want to give everybody a heads up, we're updating this product. Not necessarily updating it. We're not going to replace it. But the new product is this. So this is the same concept, is the test tube array formicarium using the same style as test tube. The only difference is that we got some feedback from some customers, and they told us that they wanted to see inside of the connection piece. So in the new update or version 2 that is going to be released, so both versions are going to be available, you're actually going to be able to see exactly how ants are traveling from test tube to test tube. So we just basically made the test tube array formicarium even slimmer and with more windows.
Yeah, I like that. I really like things like this. I was looking at getting one because I've currently got like 8 Lasius niger colonies, and they're all in the founding stage. So I was thinking of getting loads of this sort of thing where I can put multiple test tubes and a tiny little Outworld for each one, just to last them that like for the next 6 months or so, really.
We also have the nano outworld. What-
So this would be your setup, right? You have the 3 test tubes. They're protected by the blackout covers for the test tube, but you can see the inside window. If you want to protect that inside window and put a blackout, you have that option, as you can see, or you can just have the main window not protected so they don't stay there, and then you have your little outworld on the side, right?
Yeah.
So this is not available in the store. I literally just finished this product 2 days ago.
Oh wow. Okay.
So
we-
these photos are as fresh as they can get.
Wow.
So that's going to come as a kit as well, and there you have a picture of the kit.
You
Okay.
saw it here first, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just looking at what you got. You got a water tower, feeding trays, the larger feeding trays, pair of tweezers, pipette. What's the little right next to the pipette? You've got that little clear plastic sort of thing. Can I ask what
Yeah.
that is?
That's a nest plug. So this
Okay,
plug,
so that's the plug for the ends.
yeah. So you can see we have one there, but in case you need another one, right? So that's just a nest plug, and then the nest plugs are very simple. They're made with resin, with the resin printer. It's a little tiny resin plug. It's very hard and resistant, and they're reusable. If by any chance the vinyl tubing gets worn out or broken, or the ants destroy a little bit of it, you can just cut a new piece and then remove the little tiny hard part, plug it into the new plug, and then you have brand new resin plug ready to go. Very small, very compact plugs, and they're still using the original vinyl tubing that's going to be there because it's flexible. It's able to go in and seal tight against the walls. So you have a spare one there included.
That's handy. Very handy.
Yep. So that's going to be available in the store probably in the next day or two. The new version of the resin, the test tube array for McCarran with a window so you can see what's going on exactly everywhere. Your hands will have no privacy anymore. That's what we're doing here. And then we just have a couple of other products that are being updated. So most of the updates, as you can see, are kits. These are kits, right? So you have your all-in-one kits for the small startup colony. This one in particular, we don't even have a name for this product. We just have the design and we made it, and we like that it's vertical, but we officially are still looking for the name of the product. So if anybody has any ideas, we're open to receiving them. So
maybe you should run another competition on your Discord, and they can choose.
You never know. You never know. If you come up with the name, maybe you'll get a free sample.
And same thing. This has a way to expand in both ways, so you can actually put as many as you want right next to each other, like just stack them up, and each one of them comes with their blackout cover as well. So your ants are pretty well protected. Yeah.
That's really cool. Very cool. We do have a question here from Shane. I'm just going to ask that whilst we have a quick second. What are your thoughts on Cannabera diversa? Are they an ant colony that you like, a species that you dislike, or not bothered?
I think if they start to bring them into Canada, we're going to be able to have fun with them, and I believe it's one of the ants that we're hoping that there's permits approved for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to have them again because they're not necessarily the biggest ants, so they are within the size that I like for sure.
Yeah. I do like Cannabera diversa. I'm hoping to get a colony pretty soon, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately for me right now, they just haven't been available.
You have to wait, if at all.
Yeah. I mean, I'm currently at the stage I can't keep many more. I've got 32 ant colonies at the moment, and scorpions and lots of other stuff. And the wife and kids are a little bit. I'm going to have to move them out if I need more space.
That's funny.
We've got a couple of name suggestions: the Amor Tower and Verto World.
The Amor Tower. That sounds fun. Yeah.
Can we ask
Well,
what? How did you come up with your name? What does it mean? Or
yeah. So I'm Portuguese
okay,
and he's Mexican. And it's spelt and pronounced the exact same way. It means the same thing in both Portuguese and in Spanish. And it means for love.
oh,
Yeah.
And it actually started, that name started before ant keeping. It started at the very, very beginning when we got together for business. We started as a photography business first.
Okay.
And so we did the for love. It just made sense. We, shot weddings, we shot birthdays, we shot, family portraits. For love just made sense. It just made sense.
Yeah.
And then from then we just grew into other parts so that we have other departments. So we have ant keeping, the ant shop. We have photography. We have music lessons, and we also make cakes. So they're all called Pour Amor. So Pour Amor Ant Shop, Pour Amor Photography, Pour Amor Music, and Pour Amor Cakes.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I actually really like that, and I'm just gonna bring this one up on the screen. Dean says, and that's why your products are so well thought out, because they're made with love.
Oh, so
there
cute.
there is artistic factor for sure in the process of designing and doing it. So and a lot of people have asked, do you want to change the name of the shop? I mean, you're an ant shop, what does it have to do with art? It does. For us, it does. It's one of these species that we are putting out there. They're not just a house for an ant colony. There's a lot of art going into it. So let me show you this. This, for example, is a honey cell. Is one of the first products that we ever made. And there goes a lot of work into making this little tiny sandwich look so nice.
Yeah,
so you have the glass on the back, you have the glass on the front. The water chamber is very, very nicely hiding. And the substrate, the inside of this unit, all of this stuff is handmade.
Yeah.
wow.
So you have the 3D printer part, yes, but putting all of this stuff together, it's handmade. So I think that's very artistic.
It is, yeah. I couldn't do it.
It's quite a bit of effort on that front. But yeah, the honey cell is one of our favorite ones. It's a small, tiny formicarium. It's perfect for founding stages. It has the blackout cover on the front and the back, right? It houses a little tiny small colony or a medium-sized small species colony, right? So it's very, very versatile. It just takes a couple of drops of water a week. This formicarium needs very, very little water. It's like a little less than a milliliter of water every week and a half. That's it.
That looks good. Very arty. Like I said, I couldn't do things like that. I have workman's fingers, weightlifting fingers, and they just don't do little things like that. I can't do it. In fact, I quite struggle with the ants because my hands are so clumpy. I don't try and pick them up.
You don't pet them? No?
You know?
Hello, Annie.
I have seen people do handle like the millipedes and the crabs sometimes. I never pick anything up. Like,
Yeah.
it's not, doesn't really, I don't know. I just like to leave them to it. I've seen some people will even pick up the scorpion. I've seen them like twice. Picking them up's like another matter altogether.
Butterflies freak me out when they land on me. Like, I'm not a bug person at all. Like, I'm cool at looking at them and yeah, just don't touch me.
Yeah, my wife's like that. In fact, she can't even, like, if a pigeon came close to her, she'd run away screaming. Like anything, she's just useless.
I'm actually a bird person. I have 3 birds and I've trained them, and they're my buddies. So we're not the same there, but bugs, far away from me, please.
Okay. My daughter, I always mention her, the amazing Amy. She's actually more fearless than me. She'll quite happily pick up like anything. The other day we had her holding snakes and roaches and just absolutely anything. Doesn't even second thought it. Just like, oh, give me that. I'm like,
I'm good with snakes. Like,
oh,
I'm
okay.
more likely to hold a scorpion over a spider.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
Even
know,
though
man.
they're almost the same.
I don't know. There's something about them that I hate crickets. Crickets, no,
Yeah.
I won't touch those guys either.
I'm gonna put that to the test now.
No, please don't. But yeah, I'm okay with snakes. I've had snakes. I've had chameleon. I've had, lizards. I'm good with that kind of stuff. I'm good with birds, dogs, cats, all of those like common pets. I'm okay with.
Yeah.
Super allergic, but okay with.
Yeah. Okay.
But spiders, like it could be the smallest spider, and if they creep me out.
Yeah, fair enough. So I do plan to get a Goliath bird-eating tarantula at some point. It's always been a dream of mine to have. The wife just says no, basically. But when she doesn't know, I'll sneak it in and hide it in a box somewhere. She won't know.
I'll find her on Facebook and let her know. We
Yeah.
moms have to stick together.
Brilliant. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you tonight. Thank you very much for joining us on the stream. Is there anything else that you want to tell the viewers before you go?
Thank you for tuning in. We hope to see you on a Discord, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you prefer. We'd like to see you there. And we hope to see some of our products being shipped to your home. And we would love to get any feedback that you have, any suggestions, any ideas that you want to put on our ant shop. Send them over.
There's actually, and I'm just getting ahead of myself. I know we're very close to reaching 100 Discord members on the server. And again, it's a brand new Discord. But I think if we reach over 100, we're going to have a giveaway. We're going to give one of the newer formicariums that we have. And I do this because it's inspired in the rotation of a Rubik's Cube.
Okay.
So the water chamber and some of the items of this formicarium, they all rotate around a central axis. So I haven't seen a formicarium like this one. It's super, super compact, yet there's a lot of space inside of it. And the way everything's stacked up is quite innovative. It's a very magnetical Rubik's Cube concept. So I think if we have enough people join the Discord and we manage to get enough recruits into the server, we'll have enough people to participate in a giveaway where we're going to be sending out one of those new products before we even put it in the store. So that'll be nice to have somebody receive some of the first few units. So yeah, stay tuned.
Also, my friend here, if you like spiders and what do you call them again? Scorpions? He can help you. This is Webbers and Pinchers. Check them out on Facebook.
Okay, brilliant. I'll check that out as well.
Cool.
Okay, so we'll make sure to post all the links in the description below to find all your social media and your webpage and all of that. So hopefully people can get in contact with you and join all your servers and stuff. That sounds like a great opportunity to get some more free stuff and discounts.
Yeah.
As I say, it's been an absolute pleasure having you chat with us tonight. Thank you very much for answering all of our questions. And I shall let you just sign off now, and I shall say my own little goodbye afterwards.
Awesome.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
There we go. And I'm just going to zoom. And you've got me again. Well done, Shane. Yes, you did win. Thanks for coming in. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. It's been absolutely awesome. We've had loads of amazing people chatting away in the comments section. You've all blown me away again for your participation in these streams. Thank you so much. I cannot say enough thank yous. Thank you. Wednesday, we're going to do another live stream that the picnic table, but it's just going to be another open mic night. So if you want to join in on Wednesday, send me a message and I'll just send you the link so you can jump on and have a little chat with us as well. It's going to be a great one. The last open mic night went really, really well, so don't miss that one. And then next Sunday, we have Persia ocelots. So that's slightly different from ants. They do all sorts of stuff like reptiles and all sorts of stuff, and it's going to be really interesting, so don't miss that one either. Obviously, I'm back to my normal video schedule now, so I've got my normal videos coming out every Saturday, and my review videos coming out every Monday, as well as the 2 live streams a week. So you're getting plenty of videos coming out from my channel. So make sure, if you haven't already, you are subscribed to my channel, subscribe to all the other channels and social media stuff that we're going to put in the comments. Make sure you check it out. And if you missed any of this, it's going to be available on Twitch, YouTube, and Spotify by about midday tomorrow. But that's all from me. Have a great evening, everybody. And as always, I'll see you again soon, Ant fans.